If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
Of the series steps we wrote, we have, let me try to open it. We have written a series of steps which we have used, right, to consume that particular HANA SQL statement using native SQL. And once we do that, we have executed it and saw that whatever the result we are getting at the HANA layer, the same result we saw it at the ABAP layer as well, right? Whatever the result we are seeing inside the ABAP layer also, we saw that the same result we saw it at the ABAP layer also, right? See to see here, this is what we did. We created a report initially. The first step, we created a SQL connection to get the connection properties. Once the connection is set, then we created a statement, right? Then we told the system, consider this as a query, what you need to execute. And how did we get this query? We got this query from the HANA view. You use the HANA view inside the HANA Studio, you execute this query. We have checked it, and once it is working fine, then we simply copied and paste it here. And once we have the query what we need to execute, then we have executed the query by passing the query string. And finally, we have created a variable called LR_data, because we all know whenever you are using native SQL, definitely you need to use a dynamic internal table. We can't use the static tables. So that's where we have created a dynamic internal tables to get hold of the result. So once we have put in this query inside the string, so we have created a reference to the internal table. So whatever the structure we have created as a type, we want that to be assigned it to the dynamic internal table. Once we have that, and we are passing whatever the results we get for execution of this above statement to that internal table, right? This statement, next underscore package, gets all the results from your HANA system, right? So once you get there, we are closing the connections, because if you don't close these connections, you'll get a connections issue, because it will be used by many customers, or if this report is being run on many customers, we will be having a problems with the connections. So once your job is done, try to close these connections. Okay. Finally, we are trying to display the output. If I execute it, so this is the output what I'll get. And if you try to go to the data preview of HANA Studio, and if you try to see the one which you have created, right? So you can see the same amount of records, same columns, everything, right? So this is how we can consume process, whatever we have followed, right? It has some disadvantages like we discussed yesterday, right? So this is all, whatever we are writing here, this all runs in the ABAP layer, right? But we need to write a lot of code, or if you see here, we wrote a lot of code here. So let's say we wrote a lot of amount of code, right? And yeah, and one more thing is that, so if you see here, if you miss any one single letter inside this particular select statement, it's gone, because you will not be able to in a position to debug this particular program, right? So you can't understand what's happening wrong at the backend. So those are the few disadvantages what we have in this particular ADBC process, right? Good. And so the error analysis, if you want to do, if something got missed, it will be difficult, right? So, and it's also a bit complex for a non-programmer. So it's a non-programmers. So if you're a core ABAP developer, and if you're not pretty much comfortable with SQL statements and all, it will be difficult and so, right? So because of these issues, SAP has introduced the concept of view proxies. So if your NetWeaver 7.4 greater than or equal to SP2, you can use this particular new concept called view proxies, right? So what we'll do is we'll create a proxy for the HANA view at ABAP layer, right? Which is just or which acts as a replica of HANA view, similar to the what we created in HANA layer, and we call that as view proxy, right? One important thing is whatever the view proxy we are going to do, so this one we can do it only from ADP. So you cannot create this view proxy from the SAP GUI. Okay. So what you can say, what is the prerequisite to create a view proxy? So the prerequisite is that you should have a HANA view which must already exist, right? So if you want to create a view proxy, you need to keep two things in mind. So the first thing is the view proxy can only be created from ADT and you cannot create it from SAP GUI. And the second thing is you should have already a HANA view handy with you, or a HANA view must exist if you want to create a view proxy. Clear? Now let's see how we'll try it, how we can create a view proxy. Let me go back to the HANA Studio. Right? Click on the package, say right click, new, other ABAP repository, and if you type it here dictionary, you get something called a dictionary view. So this is the one which will be used, or this one we call it as a view proxy. Okay, I'll select a dictionary view. Say next, I'll say Z December under view proxy, right? And if you see here, we have two options, dictionary view and the external view. So we should select external view. Okay, you should select external view and give this view proxy, and here you need to give your view name. Just browse and give your view name. This is the view detail, AN underscore. No, we'll take this one. Okay. Just that is the reason why I said if you want to create an external view or a view proxy, you should definitely need to have a view HANA view which is created already, so that we can use it directly here. So, right? So if you want to create a dictionary view or an external view or a view proxy, so all are one and the same. So some people call it view proxies, some people call it external view. So both are one and the same only, right? You need to have this HANA view already created and you should be having it handy. Click on next. Here, say finish. Right. This done, it is created. If you go to the HANA Studio, you should be able to see it. Sorry, okay. This one. Okay, sorry, I meant the correct one. So if you see here, this is what we have created. We have created in the programs. Inside the dictionary, you can see the view which got created, which is the v December underscore view proxy, right? And you can see all the columns, whatever we have exposed in the particular HANA view. Okay. Clear? Right. So we have created a view proxy. How we can consume this particular view proxy inside this ABAP layer? Right? Let's see how we can do that. Let me create a new report. I'll say Z call underscore view underscore proxy. Okay. Call view proxy. See next. And say finish. Okay. So let's see how we can consume the view proxy, whatever we have created. Simply what we can do is I'll say select star from ZDAC underscore VP into table. Okay. And that simply writes the statement, and I will simply okay, my remote desktop was having an issues. Let's wait for some time. Okay, remote desktop got and just give me some minute. Since it got stuck, let me close this remote desktop and open it again. Right. And I'll simply try to display it. CL underscore demo underscore output display underscore data, and I'll export in value to the right. That's it. Done. Okay. Just save. Okay, let me see what's happening here. Okay, it seems I did not activate this one. So just activate the external view, whatever we have created. Okay. Come back to your program. Save this again, or just close and open it again. Okay, now I've saved it's good. Last time I'm not activated. Right, activate this one as well. And say F8. Sorry, we're not getting this right. Say F9. Z, this is the columns, so let me repeat in the backend. So there is no need for you to do the testing like this. So once you have completed this code, right? So once you activated, if you click on F8, you should see the result here only. You get a new screen where it shows the result. But this particular HANA Studio is having a few problems. I'm just going to the SAP GUI to show you the output, but there is no need for you to go like that. If you say F8, you should see the output on a new tab here within the ADT itself, right? Okay. Okay, this is call. The SQL occur accessing table. Okay, there are some incompatible dates, it seems. Okay, that the data types in terms of uh, the table, whatever we have used, and this is having an issues. Okay, let me go there and check. Most it should have these data type issues. That's what it comes. Let me see the report what it said. DB type date 14 selected on 10 and that retrieval period on 10 plus DB type date. Okay, let me check this. It seems the data type is having an issue. So both are not the same. Let me check it again. Okay, let me check. Activate cannot this. EP14. Don't see any DB14 here. Even for this. Okay, here I'm getting 16 and 10, 10 and 10, 16. This is fine, but sixteen, 15 to 15 to 18. Okay, it seems to be an issue, right? So if you see here today date, if I do a synchronization, right? And if you see that particular date, it is showing as 16, a DET and 16. If I save, it is 16 only. But if I activate, somehow it is changing back to 8. I think it looks like there is some issue with the version what you're using. So generally it should work normally. So see, once I activate that, whatever the length it has, it is changing back to 8. That's where the problem is, because HANA type we have 10, and in this particular ABAP layer we have 8. So that should not happen, right? So it should be 10. So if I do a synchronize, it is coming good, but somehow it is changing at the back, and it seems like it's a bug. So once you see, or else what, let me do, let me try to remove today date from that HANA view so that we can see that. Let me go back there. Go to our HANA view. What is the one which we used? This is the one, right? Let me remove that particular column. Okay. Okay, this is yeah, we should not have this date actually here. So somehow it is being displayed out there, I think. Let me check this. Oh, this is all gone. Okay, this is a date rate. Okay, this is good. Then payment status, currency to browse amount and a value. Browsing permissions, currency code, that's open. Yeah, somehow this is what we are having a problem with, right? So this today date somehow is being changed to this particular info. So it should not change, right? Let me have a look at it, or else let me create a new, what you say, new external view. Just let me create a new one. I'll have a look at that later. So I'll say Z December underscore VP1, external view, View Proxy 1, and here give, I'll give this purchasing data for now. I'd say next. And finish. Right. And give it this. Right. Go back to your proxy level. Say VP1. Say activate. So 38. Execute. Oh, this one is also having a date. Huh? Second. Yes. What is this view? Purchasing view. Okay, this one I have used this current date, right? Okay. Okay, in that case, let me try to just show you only this easy one. It does not have calculated things for now. I'll have a look at this one tomorrow on the date conversion. See if it is a bug at this particular person, we can't do anything. But if it is which we can address, I'll try to address it. So it's somehow changing. So if you see here, it is showing an 8. So if I do a synchronize, right? See, it is changing to 16. This is what we want because we have a HANA type of 10 length. So we want it to be having a 16 length. But here I'm not able to change also. If I save, activate, the length is again being changed to 8. So this one I need to check if a problem is with this particular version or not. Okay, I'll do that thing. Okay, got the point. Okay, let me try to create and see if that works at least. Okay, let me try this one. Hopefully this should be working fine. I should not see any issues. Let's see. Oh, okay. This we saw the result. So this is how you'll see. So whatever the result you can use to see at the ABAP layer. Let's see if I go to the HANA layer, right, and if I execute this product, and if I see the data preview, right, so you used to see a similar result like product key, product ID, category, and the text. So the same thing, if you try to see it here, we can see that you have a product key, product ID, category, and the text. So here, because we are having a good amount of access, we are able to see the text here. You can see at that particular HANA layer, we are not able to see the text which is being displayed, but here you can see the entire product text as well. So this is how you can consume your analytical views or all attributes or calculations inside a external view or on top of a ABAP layer. Any questions around this? Okay, good. Right, so we have created, we saw the ADBC, its disadvantages. So SAP brought in View Proxy, right? And our View Proxy is really helping us, right? So what are the different types of disadvantages these particular View Proxies have, right? So let's try to understand that, right? What are the different disadvantages this particular View Proxy have? Let's say I created a ABAP report. So let's say this is the one which I created, right? This is the report which I have created at the ABAP layer, right? Generally, we transport ABAP related objects via TR, right? How do we move these changes to the next canvas? We capture this report or ABAP changes inside a transport request, right? And if you try to recall, when I'm creating this particular View Proxy, I captured this one also into a TR, right? And this is released now and reaches to QA. We have released this two and it reaches to QA. So if you try to recall, right? So this one view, whatever I have created as a View Proxy, I have captured it in the ABAP here, and the report what I have created, I have attached it here. But what is the view we have used to create this external view? It's a HANA view. So how we will transport the HANA views? How we will transport the HANA views to the next environments like to QA production, right? We do it via delivery units, right? We use via delivery units. Suppose the ABAP TR reaches first QA. Okay, we have pushed the ABAP TR to QA, but the HANA delivery unit is yet to be moved to QA. What happens? Since the View Proxy won't find the HANA view, it will go to dump. Got it? So these two are two different layers. One is a HANA layer, the second one is a ABAP layer. Whatever the changes we have done in terms of ABAP layer, like creating a external view or a View Proxy, creating a report to consume it, we have captured it in it here. Right? So we know what needs to be transported. We pushed it, but the delivery unit is the one which you need to manually export and then import and then needs to do the next step. So that's how we do for HANA views, transporting the HANA views, right? If you miss that step or if you are a bit late in moving the step, what happens is if they try to run this report in QA, that will go to a dump, right? So what are the different disadvantages we have with View Proxy? So both the ABAP layer and the HANA layers must be in sync. Okay, both the ABAP layer and the HANA layers transports must be in sync, right? So with this particular kind of mechanism of transport and working, right, what we'll have is we'll have a life cycle challenges with respect to the synchronization of these objects. Right? We'll have life cycle challenges with respect to the synchronization of these objects. Suppose if I change the view, and regenerate my view, right? When I say view, I'm doing some change here. I'm doing some change in this particular attribute. I added a new column or removed a column, something like that, right? And if I go to the view proxy, right, you'll still see the old structure because you did not do a sync between these two. So how can we do the sync between these two? You'll have something called a button called synchronize. If you click on this button, synchronize with HANA repository, then a call will be made, right? And then your underlying HANA view will synchronize with the backend HANA view and will lock it in the TR, and then we can move it to QA. This is also a manual step. There is no automation over here. Hope you understand, right? So if I remove something here, if I remove some column here, until unless this one, when I say attribute, this one, if I remove anything here, until and unless I manually synchronize it at the external view or view proxy level, this particular view will not be updated. Because of that, you may also get dumps. If you miss this step, right, you'll get a dump obviously. So this is like a life cycle challenges what we have in terms of synchronization of these objects, right? So these are the few things what we need to keep in mind when we are working on this view proxies. Right? So SAP tried to solve this problem. So how did SAP try to solve this problem? To basically allow synchronization, right? To basically allow this kind of a synchronization, they came up with a concept called HTC. Which is a HANA Transport Container, right? What is a HANA Transport Container? It is like an object like View Proxy, like how we created a new object for View Proxy, right? HTC is also like a object which resides in the ABAP layer, and this object can carry the delivery unit of HANA. This object can carry the delivery unit of HANA via ABAP transports, right? So what happens with this process is now we can lock all the view proxy report changes and also the HANA view changes in a single transport. Yeah. So the SAP has brought in a new concept called HANA Transport Container HTs, which helps us to do the synchronization automatically. There is no need for you to do this manual steps, right? So how does it help? This object, or what we are calling this HANA Transport Container, can carry the delivery unit of HANA via ABAP transport. So what is the advantage you will get with this process? Now, from now on, we can lock all the view proxies and the HANA view changes inside a single transport. Clear? Right. Now let's see how we can create a HTC, or what is the process we need to follow if you want to create a HTC or a HANA Transport Container, right? I can go back to the HANA view, click on File, New, Other, and here if you type HANA Transport Container, you can see something called HANA Transport Container. Select that one, say next, right? And here you should give your delivery unit name. I don't have it handy. Let me go and see the delivery. How can we open that? Go to window, show view, this, click here. Right here, you can see your delivery units which we created. Let me click on next. Yeah, this is the one, right? Okay, vendor is expert soft. Okay. DL underscore Z batch underscore December 21. Okay. We are creating a HTC HANA Transport Container. Let me go back. HANA Transport Container. Say next. You need to give your expert soft and DL, right? I think DL. Okay. DL underscore see December. Come on, I did not know it. Okay, now give some name here, which is DL underscore Z batch. DL underscore Z batch underscore December 21, right? And view the vendor name, expert soft, expert soft, okay? So it should be in this particular format. First, you should give the delivery unit name, followed by within the brackets, the vendor name. You can see it here. This is the delivery unit name. This is the vendor, right? So we got the point, right? So this is the delivery unit name, and this is the vendor. And these two things we need to do. Let's say next. Put it in a transport. See here, it is asking me for a transport for this particular HANA Transport Container. Say finish. Then once you do that, right? Once you do this particular step, it created a HANA Transport Container, right? So now there is no need for you to do this export and import of the delivery units. Everything will be taken care via TR, and it will be taken care by this particular HANA Transport Container, right? Now, suppose if there is a change in the view, and that triggers a change in the ABAP, right? What you need to do is, so as I said earlier, if you do any change in this particular view, it triggers a change in the ABAP layer, right? But there is also one thing which you need to do manually, which is to take a snapshot and do a save. Once you do this, then you'll get a recent changes attached to this particular transport container. You need to click on take snapshot and save. You can see the time gets updated. What is the snapshot time? 8:48 a.m. right? Let's say I did some changes. If I click it, if I want to capture those changes inside this HTC, if I take this one, you'll get updated transport, right? You'll get this updated transport. So what are the changes you have will be coming out here. You can see the contents here, but you definitely need to perform this step, which is also a matter. You need to click on take snapshot and save, right? Once you do this particular step, you'll get all the recent changes. Again, this has some disadvantages, right? And we may have some confusion, and there are many things we have learned, right? Which may lead to error because we understand that there is a delivery unit, right? And we used to do it manually, import and export into AT systems. For the rest of the things in ABAP layer, we used to put it in a TR. And now we came back and saying that instead of doing the manual synchronization, we need to create HTC, which takes care of which takes care of all the transport process by capturing delivery units in a transport request. Right? But even then, there is also a manual step involved. You need to click on this take snapshot and save. Until unless you do this, the latest changes, whatever you are doing at the HANA views level, will not be captured in this particular thing, right? So you need to keep this particular point also in mind. Right? Because of these manual things and the confusion around these different concepts, so SAP again came back with a completely different concept. And they came back totally with a completely different concept, right? If you try to recall, we talked about top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. Okay, let me open that slide for you so that you can have it. Give me a second. Let me open that particular. Yeah, I don't have it handy. Okay, right. So it's like a top-down, bottom-down approach. So this option, which works on the top-down approach rather than a bottom-up. So whatever the approach we have followed now, it's all a bottom-up approach. So why I'm saying a bottom-up approach, right? So let me try to show it here. So why I'm calling this is a bottom-up approach is, if you try to recall, let me try to put it this way. Okay. Right. Okay. And here, if you see, I have a couple of things. Let me show you whatever we used to have and then try to understand. It will be easy for you. Okay? Good. So let's suppose this is a consider this as a application layer. Okay, this is a HANA DB. This is a HANA DB, and this one is a application layer. Okay, application layer. And this one we have the information views inside. This is our information view. Whatever calculation views, attribute views, whatever creating, right? And this is a R view, right? This is a, you can say HANA DB, okay? HANA DB. So this is our ABAP layer. This is our program what we are calling or using, inside which we are calling our View Proxy, right? What we are trying to do now is, so if you see this, right? So what we are trying to do is, we are calling this particular information view in a view, right? We are using this inside a view. Okay, let me search here. We are using this information view inside a view, right? And we are attaching this information views to a delivery unit to do a transport. So consider this as a DL, delivery unit, right? What we are doing, we are creating information model via views, and we are attaching them to a delivery unit in the HANA DB layer, right? And then at the ABAP layer, we are creating a ABAP report and consuming it via View Proxy, right? And View Proxy is internally using this particular view, whatever created from the DB view or the HANA view, right? Now, what they have brought in is they have brought in this HANA container, right? They have got in the concept of HANA container. So what this HANA container is doing is now this HANA container is taking care of this delivery unit as well. This HANA container is taking of this delivery unit, and finally they are putting everything inside a they are putting everything inside a transport request. Now, if you try to understand, your ABAP report is transported via TR, your View Proxy is transported via TR, and your HANA Transport Container is transported via TR. Everything from the ABAP layer. You are not at all bothered about the things happening at the HANA DB layer, right? This is what we call it as a bottom up approach, because bottom is our baseline. If your view does not exist, and it will not be, or it cannot be used inside this view proxy, it will go to a dump, right? So we are doing first the bottom development, then using it at the top. So we call it as a bottom up approach. Clear? Good. Just try to understand this. Now we'll be working on a new concept, right? Which they're calling it as a top-down approach. So rather than bottom up, we are calling this as a bottom up approach. Okay, we're calling this as a bottom up approach. So rather than calling this or rather than using this, they came up with a new concept of top down. Why? Because even if we follow this process, we see there is a chance of doing some mistakes, right? Like we need to do manually synchronize, take a snapshot and all the stuff, right? So just to eradicate this, SAP introduced a new concept or another concept called top-down approach. So what does this top-down approach says? What it simply says is, don't go and create any object at the HANA layer or HANA DB layer. Don't create any information view. Don't create any view. Don't create any delivery unit. It says simply, don't go and create anything or any object at the HANA layer. You create whatever the object you want to create in the ABAP layer itself. And when we activate this object at the ABAP layer, that activation creates a HANA view automatically in the HANA layer. Clear? Okay, let me open this code to data paradigm side. I'll go a bit slow on this one because you need to understand the concepts, why SAP started with one kind of approach and landed at CDS. Okay, first, where is code to data paradigm? Okay. So this is what we call it as a bottom up approach, right? So what SAP or what we'll be doing inside this top down. What we'll be doing in this top down approaches. What will we are doing this in top down approaches? We will not be creating any objects, right? Whatever the objects we created here, right? Whatever the objects we created here, there is no need for you to create it now. So whatever the objects you have created here, there is no need for you to create it in the top-down approach. If you create an object in the ABAP layer at the top layer, right? We will activate this object, right? Obviously, once we create an object or design object, we activate it. When we activate this object, this activation creates a HANA view. This activation creates a HANA view automatically in the HANA layer, right? And it still follows the code to data paradigm. So whatever the code to data paradigm SAP is telling us to follow, we are not breaking that particular paradigm. We are still achieving this code to data paradigm even in this top-down approach. Right? So with this process, when we transport, there is no need for us to transport HANA view to QA. If you see, the entire process will be eliminated. So if we do a transport, from now onwards, there is no need for you to transport those HANA views to QA. We just transport the new objects, whatever we create at the ABAP layer. Right? So with the introduction of this new process, we don't need this HTC, we don't need this view proxies, or there is no need for you to create information models like attributes or calculations. Everything is gone. All these things are gone, right? We can just use this new object and we can achieve anything using the top-down approach. Right? I keep calling it as a new object, new object, new object. What is a new object SAP has introduced? We call that new object as CDS views. Right? We create CDS views in ABAP layer, which automatically creates a HANA view in the HANA layer. Right? Here, this particular concept you can use, or you can make use of the CDS concept if your NetWeaver 7.4 greater than or equal to SP6. Right? If you are working on S4 HANA system, right, your organization will never allow you to access this HANA DB directly. Right? Only way to achieve this code to data paradigm is to create the CDS views, which internally creates the HANA views. Here, so if you are working on S4 HANA system, we never talk about these information models like attribute views, analytical views, calculation views. We only talk about CDS views. Clear or any questions?
So in real-time scenario, we won't be working on any analytical views or...
When I say real-time scenario, if you are working on S4 HANA system, if you are working on the sidecar approach or a HANA system, you may use, or if your company is still on the old versions of HANA, right? If they're not on the S4 HANA, in that cases, you generally tend to use or create those information views. But if you're working on latest S4 HANA system, yes, all these are gone. You'll not be creating or using it anymore. We'll be using only the CDS views.
Oh, okay.
Any more questions? Oh. Okay, good then. So now we'll talk about few new things. So we understood what this is, and we know that now we'll be working on this CDS views, right? So what is the important thing if you want to work on a CDS view, right? So the important thing what you need to understand if you want to work on this particular okay, I think I got this right. Just give me a minute. I want to show you this one. Now you can see that is the one. In fact, this is not done. That's fine. Okay, good, right? So if we want to start working on the CDS views, right, there is one thing which you need to understand clearly, which is the concept of SQL script. So whatever the CDS views we will be building it, that all of them are, or all of them will be using this SQL script concept, right? Now we'll try to see a few things around it. Okay, let's see what the SQL script is, right? How we can write those programs in a SQL script, or why SAP has brought in the picture of using SQL script, right? Let's see those things now. Good. So what is the disadvantages of these information models in HANA? So if you see, we are creating lots and lots of HANA views, which are information models, right? HANA views, calculation views, attribute views. So what are the different disadvantages we have? Why SAP stopped using this and moved to CDS views? Okay. Yeah, we saw the life cycle changes, life cycle challenges, but let's see what are the different things we'll also have issues with, right? So if you see, we are just creating everything here, right? So you see, we are just doing drag and drop, selecting the tables, putting all these columns. Really, if you get some issue in the internally, right? So you'll not be able to debug this information model. Only what we can do is we can just check any logs, activation logs, and try to understand, okay, this is happening wrong. I need to do some fix around it, right? You cannot really go and debug the particular information model. We need to check the activation logs and then take the next steps accordingly to fix that particular issue, right? So if you are working on a very complex requirements, the decomposition of the solution is not at all possible. So when I say decomposition of solution, if you're working in with a very complex requirement, right? So you'll not be able to break that particular requirement into pieces, because if you want that into a single view, so it will be really tough, right? Starting it will be fine, but if you want to do some change after a few months or years, right? So it will be really difficult just to try to understand how complex it is. It's a bit easy to do the decomposition, right? And also there is no possibility to write any control flow logic inside the view. So whatever the view design we are doing in terms of information models, we cannot write any control flow logic, asking the system to do this one when you get this one, right? Those are all the just what we have in terms of this information models. For example, let's say I have a cost center called 100, right? I have a cost center called 100. So if I want to give a discount for that particular cost center, right, of around 10%, right? If not, if the people are coming or falling in this kind of scenario, we cannot achieve using information models. Why? Because we don't have the possibility to write any control flow logic inside the view. All we can do is just try to design the view and take it forward, right? So we cannot put this type of control logic inside the views. Okay? And also the SQL queries written on these views always written only one result. If you see, whatever the select I want to do, it always gives only one result. It gives us a table. Right? If we want to change the result, right, we have to use so many subqueries, which is also a very cumbersome process. Right? And it is also not possible easy to handle this imperative logic. Right? So we all know what is imperative logic means. If you want to do a sorting, searching, etc., we can't do on this kind of information views that easily. Right? So to address all these problems, SAP brought in a new concept called SQL script, right? Brought in a concept called SQL script. So this does not mean that SQL script is all a replacement of information model, right? It is just an alternative. So it all depends on your use case or approach, what you want to follow, which process. Either you can go for information models if it is fitting your business purpose or business need. If not, you can go for SQL script. So these two are like a parallel things what we can use based on your use case. But this is not at all, our SQL script is not at all a replacement of the information models. Clear? Any questions? Good. Now we'll talk about SQL script. So the objective for the SQL script, right? So the objective for the SQL script is to embed data intensive application logic into the database. So whatever the data intensive logic we want to run, right, on the database to get the results, this actually helps us, right? So if you see a traditional three-tier architecture, right? So the middle tier, the application layer tends to dumb down the database, right? And executes all the business logic. It used to happen, right? For example, the application might perform the following steps. Let's say select all the rows from a table A, then move those records to the application layer, and then do the looping through each row to perform some action, right? So a lot of actions takes place at that level, and it puts a lot of load on the database server. So code push down is needed in that particular scenario or in those kind of cases where we are doing a massive data copy, right, to get the best performance. And SQL script makes that code push down possible. So one advantage of SQL script is that it helps us to do the code push down, whatever we are trying to do. Right? So if you see at a conceptual level, the language is related to stored procedures and uses a combination of the declarative and the imperative logics, right? If you see, these two are kind of a linked. So these two uses this kind of imperative and the declarative logics behind it, right? So when you are trying to use this SQL script, right? So we need to keep a couple of things in mind, right? So we need to follow a few best practices in order to achieve whatever the full-fledged performance you want to achieve, right? So we need to break down the complex queries into sub-expressions. So this helps the compiler to recognize the patterns and to avoid the expensive computations which needs to be performed at the back, right? We need to break down the complex queries into small expressions, right? And we also need to avoid this dynamic SQL. So dynamic SQL is one which is generated at runtime and requests and takes a lot of compilation and the query optimization, right? Static SQL is the one which we generally write. It is compiled only once and can be executed many times. That's because of that, if you use a static SQL, it gives much faster performance, right? Those are the few best practices what you need to keep in mind. So now let's talk about all this imperative, declarative, whatever I'm talking about, right? So as I said, SQL script is simply a collection of extensions to SQL. Right? We have already an SQL language from ages, right? What SAP did is it took that SQL language as a base and added some collection of extensions to the existing SQL language, and it named it as SQL script. So SQL script is the language which we use when you're working on a HANA system, and it is not any language which is open source or something like that, right? So SAP took in this SQL language and they have added few collection of extensions on top of it and named it as SQL script. This particular language can be used in stored procedures in place of plain SQL, right? So it actually determines the functional and the procedural extensions. Right? So if you're working on SQL script, right, so user can define these local variables for structures, tables, and all those things. You can do normal things as well. Even SQL script can also be used in calculation use, right? Okay, let me go back to this. Okay, SQL script, there are two different logic containers. Okay, in SQL script, there are two different logic containers. The first one is a procedure, right? So procedure allows us to describe a sequence of data transformations. When you're trying to do the transformations between the data layers, and this procedure helps us to do the same or achieve the same. And the second one, what we have is a user-defined function. User-defined function or the UDF. The user-defined function container is separated into again two different things, which is again divided into two types. Right? So we have two things here in SQL script, right? So two different logic containers we call them. So the first one is a procedure, and the second one we call it as a user-defined function UDF. Right? Again, this particular user-defined function is divided into two types, which is a scalar user-defined function, and the second one is a table user-defined function. Right? So this one is like depends on the type of output what are getting. Let's say if you're okay, thank you. Right. So this user-defined function, inside it we have a scalar UDF and the table UDF. So if you are trying to return only the one parameter or a scalar parameter, we call that UDF function as a scalar UDF function. If you are trying to return multiple entries like a table, right? So we call it as a table UDF. These are just two types of containers what we'll have, right? So there are other things which we also want to cover, which is escape script language. There are few elements which I talked about earlier, right? I said that there are declarative SQL statements. We have orchestration SQL script logic. The third one, what we have is imperative SQL script logic. So these are the three different types of language elements what we have. We call them as the language elements. So what this particular functions does, right? What is a declarative SQL script logic means, right? It allows to define the table types. There is no need for you to refer any database tables. It simply allows us to define the table types. So typically statements like select, right? Selects all this, select everything falls under this declarative SQL logics. We have something called a calculation engine CE functions, which also falls under this particular category, right? The second one, what we have is the orchestration SQL script logic, right? This logic is used to implement data flow. This logic is used to implement the data flow by using a concept called DDL, DML, right? And we have DQL, DCL and all. All these things fall under this particular category, right? These SQL query statements helps us to control the flow logic using imperative language constructs such as loops and conditions, right? So the data definition statements, if you try to recall our earlier slides, right? Declaration, if you want to create a schema, if you want to create a table, right? Data definitions, like manipulations, if you want to insert, update or delete. The controls, if you want to do any authorization sticks, right? All these conditions falls under this orchestration logic because we are trying to control the flow logic using this state orchestration SQL script logic. The last one, what we have is the imperative SQL script logic, right? So this actually splits the logic among several data flows. This particular imperative script logic helps us to split the data among several data flows. So what all this falls under this particular category? Simple if statements, if else, which we use to break a long set of statements, right? And loops for statement, loops, all these things falls under this imperative SQL script logic, right? Good. So simply to say, SQL script is executed and processed in the calculation engine within the HANA database, right? So SQL script is able to perform complex calculations, right? And in SQL script, a local variable can be declared to hold the interim result. So whatever the interim result you are getting, you can declare a variable in SQL script to store it, right? All these things we can achieve it via SQL script, right? As I said, if you see here, we have create in the DDL, and also we have alter, drop, all these things come and fall under this DDL activity category. So if you come to DML, data manipulation, insert, update, delete, data declaration logic, DDL, okay. This one is data manipulation logic, which is DML, right? Similarly, we have the third one, which is DQL, data query language. DQL, what is the data query language? Which we do, which is using a select statements. The fourth one, what we have is data control language, which is DCL. We call it as a DCL. If you are using any commands like grad, revoke, all these functions falls under this particular DCL. So these are the four different set of precision SQL logics what we have. Right? Right. So what are the types of statements we have in SAP HANA? Right. So the main purpose of SQL script is to provide a procedural capabilities to SQL. Right. It helps the developers to write the data intensive logic, right, using the SQL script. Right. What are the types of statements we have in SAP HANA? Right. So if you have any idea who came from or who has idea around Oracle and they used to have PLSQL and all this stuff, right? So it also uses the same concept. We have a similar concept here as well in SAP HANA. So what are the different types of statements what we have? What are the different types of statements what we have? We have around two types of statements. One is the declarative logic, right? The second one is the imperative logic, right? So declarative logic will be pure SQL, basically DQL statement. So all the sequence of DQL statements, right, will fall under this particular DQL, right? Whatever the pure SQL statements which we use to query different sets of data, right? So all those things fall under this declarative logic. Imperative logic is where we have all those loops. If loops, else loops, for loops, all while loops, etc., fall under this imperative logic. So in declarative logic, code gets converted to a data flow. Okay. In declarative logic, code gets converted to a data flow logic. Right? How it happens? Whereas this particular declarative logic has a strong chance that HANA will process this type of logic in parallel mode. Right? One advantage that what we have in this declarative logic is HANA will process this type of logic in parallel mode. This is a good advantage of what we have. Whereas if you use this imperative logic, HANA will never process this logic in parallel mode. So what is the use of HANA? So we want our applications or operations to be run in a parallel mode. Then only we get this improved performance bonus, right? So whatever the methods or practices you are using, we should mostly try to use the declaration logic where it allows us to run our applications or run our code in a parallel mode, where we get this hint of bonus in terms of HANA in a performance boost, right? So let's have a quick example or quick look at example. Let me try to write one quick example, try to understand how this particular imperative and declarative logics work, right? Let's say I have a query one. Okay. What is my query? I'll say LG underscore. Okay, I think this will take too much of time. Okay. We'll park it here, guys, because it will take some time. I just don't want to break it in the middle. Okay. Let's put a break here. Let's stop it for today because we have 3 days gap, right? So I don't want to start this particular topic. Okay, just remove this. So we understand different kinds of statements, right? So we understand different types of script logics, what we have in terms of SQL script. In the next session, what we'll do is we'll try to understand how this particular declarative logic and imperative logic helps us to run these things in parallel and what are the different kinds of advantages we'll get, right? Good, any questions? Okay, good then. That's all for today, guys. Then let's meet.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.